Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for this video because it is something new that I've been doing and it has been working really well for me. So I thought, what better way to share my experience than to show you. So today's video is going to be a tutorial on how I screen print items. And I say items because I am able to screen print almost any kind of fabric. So as of right now, I have done t-shirts and tea towels and wine totes, but I am looking to do pillowcases as well, and probably regular totes, not just wine totes, but like regular size. So without further ado, let's roll right into it. Now, this is not the photo emulsion method. I am using the vinyl method. So I'll explain that a little more as I'm showing you what I do. But first I want to say that I make my own screens, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well. It is a lot cheaper than buying like the Speedball brand, either from Hobby Lobby or Michael's or any kind of craft store or Amazon. So I make my own screens, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So first, for the actual screen itself, you are going to need some kind of mesh fabric, and I found mine at Walmart. It was like 4 yards for $4 or something. It's just like a thin kind of see-through mesh fabric, and I just cut it to size when I need to make a screen. And then you're gonna need canvas. So you could probably make like wooden frames if you wanted to, if you're handy or know someone that's handy. But for me, it's just easiest if I buy a canvas. Usually I get the packs of canvases. It's usually between 5 and 10 actual canvases in a pack, depending on what size you get. So I just get like the regular canvas, the wooden frame on it. I'll get different sizes as well. So this one is like the bigger size. You're gonna choose your canvas size based on your design size. So for example, if I were to do a shirt with a design that would just be like where a pocket would be, or if I would do like a wine tote, I would use this smaller canvas. And then if I was going to do a whole front of a t-shirt or like a pillowcase, I would use the bigger size. So you just need to have more room to work with. For the actual screen as well, you are going to need a staple gun. This is my dad's and I use it. So you just need a staple gun with staples in it. And then I like to use masking tape on mine. And in the tutorial, I'll show you why I like to use it and how I like to use it. And then for the fun part, for the design, you should use permanent vinyl. And this is the Cricut brand. I found it on sale. It can be any color you want. I just got this because it was on sale at Joann Fabrics. So, but you want it to be permanent vinyl. It doesn't have to be the Cricut brand. You just want permanent vinyl for sure. And it's also really important to have some kind of barrier between the front and back of your items. So for shirts, I had purchased this t-shirt form. I got some ink, and this is the reason why you want that barrier between them, so that the ink doesn't go through to like the back of the shirt, because that would be horrible. And then for smaller items like my wine totes, I just cut this off of a cardboard box. This is like part of the lid, and I just slide it on there. So you'll see that in the video as well. And last but not least, you will need transfer tape so you can get the permanent vinyl onto the screen.
Here I am reversing the image, so I'm going to turn my mirror on, and I am going to ensure that I move the design so that there is space on the edges of the design. I don't want them right next to each other. And then we're just going to send that over to the Cricut machine. And the Cricut is going to do the cutting and cut it on the permanent vinyl for us. Then once it is done, you want to weed the areas that you want the design to be. So typically with vinyl, you would weed out the negative space. Here you're going to actually weed out the design of where you want the ink to be. Now I'm going to make the actual screen. So what I did was I cut out the screen mesh-like fabric ahead of time, and I'm just using my staple gun to put a few staples in the top. It wasn't until after I looked at the screen that I realized it was not in the picture, so now I'm going to fix that. So I'm going to put this into the picture so you can see what I'm doing, and you really want to ensure that the screen is very taut. You want to pull the screen. I usually balance it up against my body so that I can pull the screen and make it taut and tight. I usually do the opposite sides at the same time. So I would do the top and bottom and then one side and the second side. That just is easiest for me. That little mini earthquake was my boyfriend running into the table. So don't mind that. And then here I ran out of staples, unfortunately. So I went and found some more and kept stapling, pulling the fabric so that it was taut. I usually space my staples out maybe an inch, maybe a quarter inch. I don't want to overdo it, but you still want it to be nice and taut. You don't want any lumps in your screen from where it is tight at one point and loose at another. And then for the corners, I usually just twist all of the excess fabric and staple it in the corner. I try to get one of the staple edges in through all of the twisted fabric. It's happened before where the two edges of the staple are over the twist so that it's not actually making it taut. It's just sitting on top of it, if that makes sense. So I twist all of the corners, staple them. Some of them require 2 or 3 staples, some require 1. It just depends on where my staple gun goes. And then obviously I want to cut off all of the excess fabric. So I just start in one corner. I usually cut it to where it would hit the edge of the wooden frame. So I would make it flush with the wood. I don't want to cut it too short because then it could tear where the staple is because it is taut. And I don't want to leave it too long because then it would interrupt the design and the screen printing process. So after cutting all of the excess off of the fabric, there might be a little few strands that are loose. That's okay. This is where the masking tape comes into play. So I just rip off a piece roughly the length of each side of the wooden frame and secure it on there. This will prevent the fabric from fraying. You don't want any little strands of fabric in your ink or on your design. So this tape really ensures that it all just stays together. It's nice and clean and crisp, and you don't get any stray strands in your design. Okay, so make sure the tape is all secure. Then you're ready to move on to the next step, which is putting the transfer tape onto the design that you weeded out the actual design of where you want the ink to be. So you put the transfer tape onto the vinyl, and you want to make sure that this is flat, there's no air bubbles in it, and then you want to varnish the crap out of that design. You want to make sure you go in all directions, scraping up and down, side to side, diagonally, whatever you have to do, so that you get all of those little tiny pieces attached to the transfer tape. Then you can take the backing off of the vinyl, and you probably would want to go slow because they're going to be little pieces that just need a little help sticking to the transfer tape instead of staying on the vinyl backing. Just make sure every little piece is there so that it transfers correctly. Now that you have the paper backing off of the vinyl, you are going to place the vinyl on your surface and make sure it is fairly straight, and then you will place your screen on there and really try to ensure that the design is level. You don't want a crooked design on all of your items. That would be horrible. So you're just going to really varnish that vinyl onto the screen, scraping in all directions, pretty firm pressure. Then we're going to flip it over and remove the transfer tape from the screen and the vinyl that is now attached to the screen. You want to go pretty slow with this just to ensure the vinyl doesn't rip, make sure it sticks to the screen properly, no little pieces are coming off of the screen. You want everything on there and in perfect condition. It's better to take your time on this than to rush it, and when you rush, that usually means there's going to be some mistakes or little bumps in the road. So then put your transfer tape back on its paper backing, and then you are ready to varnish that design yet again, just to make sure everything is secure. You want the design to be on there completely, on the screen completely, and you can always examine it for little bubbles, little bumps. You want to make sure you really get those flat. And then you are going to use the masking tape yet again, and if there are any spaces between where your vinyl ends and where the wood starts, you want to tape those because you want your ink to only go on where the design is. You do not want your ink on the outside, like a picture frame, for instance. You would not want that for this design, so make sure every little inch of screen that is showing gets covered with the tape. After you have every piece of screen that is exposed covered, then it doesn't hurt to go over it again with the scraper, going in all directions. Then we're going to insert the cardboard in between the front and the back of the wine tote, and there's the Speedball ink that I have used and really enjoy. Here I'm going to try my best to line up the design on the tote bag as much as I can without being able to see around it necessarily. So that's why I just feel where the edge is. Here I'm going to put the ink at the top just using a plastic spoon, and you just want to use a pretty good amount so that you don't have any bare spots. And then this is when I realized that my squeegee is longer than the screen. So I was not able to scrape it that way. But I was able to scoop up the ink and put it right down the side so that I could go side to side instead of top to bottom. And I added more so that I wouldn't have any bare spots. And if you do have bare spots, that is okay because you are going to scrape the squeegee in back and forth motions. It's really important to do this to ensure you get full coverage of ink on the design. And you want to make sure that the ink goes through the screen in multiple ways so that it's not bare or distressed unless you want that type of look. And then you know you gotta save your ink because it is pretty expensive and you don't want to be wasteful because you are balling on a budget, so scrape that up and save it. And here is the final product. Lift the screen slowly and admire your work. Here I am doing the same exact design, just on an insulated wine tote, and I will be using white ink since obviously I should not use black ink on black totes. So it's the same design, it's a little bit smaller than the canvas wine tote, but I created the screen the same way, I did everything the same. I'm just showing you what it will look like with a black background and a white design. And this wooden frame is a little bit bigger, so I was easily able to go top to bottom, which is the way I prefer, it's just most comfortable for me. But you do you do whichever way is most comfortable for you. I did up and down and saved my ink because that's what we do here. And then you will see the finished product, which says wine because it's cheaper than therapy. And if you're like me, how true is that?